Hey everyone, and welcome to this deep dive. We're going to be talking all about Islamic prayer today.
Specifically, namaz.
Right, those 5 daily prayers.
You sent us some source material for this one.
Yeah, and it's really interesting stuff looking at prayer from 2 totally different angles
Spiritual.
and physical.
It's fascinating how they kind of weave together traditional beliefs about prayer,
With like modern ideas.
about well-being and stuff.
Yeah, it's like prayer can impact a whole person, not just the spiritual side.
Definitely.
So I guess let's start with that spiritual aspect first.
Okay.
The sources really emphasize prayer as like this powerful connection.
Between a person and Allah.
Exactly.
Like when you're bowing and you're asking for forgiveness, it creates this sense of humility.
Oh, interesting.
It's about acknowledging there's something bigger than you.
Yeah.
And recognizing our place.
Our place in the universe.
In the universe, right?
The sources even quote a verse from the Quran.
Oh, yeah.
Verily, in the remembrance of Allah do hearts find rest.
That verse speaks to like a core concept in Islam known as dhikr.
Hikr.
Yeah, the remembrance of God.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of different ways to achieve this, but
Prayer is a big one.
prayer is like the central one, yeah.
So dhikr is about intentionally focusing your mind on the divine.
Mhm.
So it sounds kind of like what you see in modern psychology today, like mindfulness.
Yeah, there are a lot of similarities there.
So it's not just about going through the motions.
Right.
It's about really being aware and present in that moment.
Exactly. And the sources say that this focus on dhikr can lead to,
Inner peace.
yeah, inner peace and tranquility
Like a mental break from everything.
from all the chaos of everyday life.
I can see how taking a few moments to just be present could be good for anyone,
Absolutely.
even if they don't pray regularly.
It's like hitting pause on all your thoughts and feelings.
And the sources also mention gratitude.
Gratitude is huge in Islam.
So during prayer, you take time to acknowledge all the blessings.
And express appreciation for them.
That's really cool.
And this focus on gratitude is something that's being recognized more and more.
In like psychology and stuff.
In psychology, exactly.
So even when things are tough, prayer kind of reminds you to focus on the good,
Yeah, it's a way of shifting your perspective.
thinking more positively.
And research shows that it can be really good for you mentally.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so even just looking at it from a spiritual perspective,
There's a lot to unpack.
a lot to unpack.
Now, what about the physical stuff?
Oh yeah, the sources get into that too, and it gets really interesting.
Okay, let's hear it.
They actually get pretty specific about the movements involved in prayer.
Okay.
They talk about ruku and sujud.
I've heard those terms, but
Not super familiar.
yeah, not really, haha.
Well, ruku is when you bow,
Okay,
bending at the waist with your hands on your knees.
gotcha.
And sujud is prostration, where your
You're on the ground.
forehead, nose, hands, knees, toes, all on the ground.
Wow, that's a lot.
It is. And the sources emphasize that these movements,
Aren't just symbolic.
they can have physical benefits too.
Oh, okay, I'm curious about this now.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
The sources compare them to like yoga or Pilates.
Saying they can relieve stress, improve flexibility.
So like a spiritual workout.
Kind of. Like yoga, the movements involve stretching, holding specific postures,
Right.
which can release tension, improve circulation,
Interesting.
and the rhythmic breathing.
It's relaxing.
It promotes relaxation, exactly.
So like a built-in stress reliever.
And the 5 daily prayers, they create this structure to your day.
Makes sense.
Like
yeah.
you're pausing at certain times to do these movements.
And reconnect with your body.
And mind.
So we started out thinking about this from a purely spiritual perspective.
Right?
But there are all these potential physical benefits too.
Exactly. It shows how the spiritual and physical are connected.
It's not just connecting with the divine. It's about taking care of your body too.
Cultivating a sense of well-being.
I wonder if they knew about these physical benefits back when they developed these practices.
That's a good question.
Centuries ago.
Yeah, the sources don't really answer that.
Something to think about.
Something to think about.
Welcome back. I'm still thinking about those prayer movements and how they could be like a spiritual workout.
Yeah, the sources really get you thinking.
They bring up some even deeper questions about Islamic prayer.
Like they ask if prayer is really just a religious duty,
Mm-hmm.
or is it more like a way of life?
Well, that's a good one.
If you're stopping 5 times a day to think about something bigger than yourself,
Yeah.
it's got to impact more than just those few minutes, right?
Right.
It could shape your values, your choices,
Your relationships.
even your relationships, yeah.
It's almost like prayer becomes how you see the world.
That's a great way to put it.
It's about keeping that awareness and gratitude with you all day.
not just when you're praying.
Exactly.
And then the sources ask about the challenges people face.
When they don't pray,
They don't really go into detail,
they imply there might be a sense of emptiness
or lack of direction,
if prayer helps you find inner peace.
and connect with something bigger.
Then not doing it,
Could leave a void.
like skipping your spiritual recharge.
Right.
And then there's the content of the prayers themselves,
Oh, yeah.
like during each prayer cycle.
Muslims recite Surah al-Fatiha.
Surah Al-Fatiha.
It's the opening chapter of the Quran.
Okay.
What's interesting about that is
What is it?
it's considered the essence of the Quran.
Oh, wait.
It's like this powerful affirmation of faith.
Yeah, okay.
It's about seeking guidance from Allah, recognizing His power and mercy.
You repeat that multiple times a day.
It reinforces those beliefs,
Mhm.
helps align your actions with them.
It's almost like a mantra,
That's a good way to think about it.
something you use to guide your decisions.
It shows how prayer is more than just movements or abstract concepts.
It's about instilling.
In principles.
And what about sujud?
Yeah, that's the prostration where you touch your forehead to the ground.
The sources point out something cool about that posture.
Oh, yeah.
Your heart's above your head.
Symbolically, that's really powerful.
Is there like a specific meaning to that?
The sources say it's about humility, submission.
To a higher power?
You're putting your heart, the seat of your emotions.
In a lower position?
You're acknowledging there's something greater than you,
I can see how that could be impactful.
even outside of religion.
It's like a visual way of saying you're not the center of everything.
It's a humbling experience.
What's the key takeaway about sujud for our listener?
It shows how the physical, mental, and spiritual are all connected in prayer.
Okay.
It's not just words and beliefs. It's about embodying them
Through actions.
through actions and postures.
Sujud really shows that connection.
So we've talked about the spiritual and physical benefits.
We've looked at prayer as a way of life.
We've even talked about sujud.
Anything else stand out to you from the sources?
One thing that struck me was the idea of prayer as discipline.
Discipline.
It might seem surprising, but
I don't usually think of prayer that way.
sticking to those 5 daily prayers takes commitment.
And self-control. You're training yourself to put prayer first.
Even when things are busy,
Even when life gets in the way,
it's easy to let things slide.
when you're tired, stressed, the sources say this effort to keep praying, to keep showing up,
Builds a kind of spiritual muscle.
it makes you stronger, more resilient.
So it's about more than just the prayer itself.
It's about the discipline it teaches you.
That discipline can affect other areas of your life.
It can make you more focused,
More determined.
better able to resist temptation.
Wow.
And the sources say it can help you deal with negative emotions too.
Like when you're in a tough spot,
You can draw on that strength you've built through prayer,
it's like you have all these coping mechanisms.
that you've been practicing.
We started talking about the spiritual and physical benefits
And now it's like prayer is a tool for self-improvement.
for personal growth.
And it's important to remember, these sources are about the Islamic view.
Right.
There are lots of other faiths and spiritual practices out there.
This deep dive is just one way to look at this topic. But even if you're not religious,
The idea of connecting with something bigger than yourself,
whether it's nature, community, or something divine,
it's pretty relatable.
and this idea that prayer can teach you discipline,
Gratitude.
self-awareness.
That resonates with a lot of people.
So what's the main message of these sources?
What do you think?
I think it's that namaz, Islamic prayer, is more than just a ritual
It's a holistic experience.
that can affect our minds, bodies, and spirits
And it's a journey.
of self-discovery.
Connecting with yourself, your faith, the world around you,
It's about reaching your full potential.
spiritually and practically.
Exactly.
Welcome back to our deep dive, everyone. We've talked about the spiritual and physical benefits of Islamic prayer,
We've looked at it as a way of life.
even as a tool for self-regulation.
There's one more thing that really jumped out at me from these sources.
What's that?
The idea of prayer as a form of discipline.
Discipline. I don't usually think of prayer that way.
It might seem a little surprising, but the sources emphasize that sticking to those 5 daily prayers.
It takes real commitment.
Yeah, commitment and self-control.
You're making prayer a priority.
Even when life gets hectic.
When you're busy,
When other things are demanding your attention.
it's so easy to let things slide.
When you're tired or stressed.
Yeah, for sure.
But the sources say that this effort, this consistency,
Of showing up for prayer day after day.
it's like building a spiritual muscle.
Interesting.
It strengthens your willpower
makes you more resilient.
when you face challenges in life.
So it's not just about the prayer itself.
It's about the discipline it cultivates.
And that discipline can affect other parts of your life.
Yeah, like it can make you more focused at work,
More determined to reach your goals.
more able to resist those temptations.
The things that distract you from what's important.
Exactly.
Wow, that's pretty powerful stuff.
The sources even suggest that it can help you manage negative emotions.
Oh, interesting.
Like when you're dealing with a difficult situation,
You can use the strength you've gained from prayer
it's like having a set of tools for coping
that you've been practicing and refining.
over time.
So we've gone from the basic benefits of prayer
To this idea of it as a way to improve yourself.
to grow as a person.
And it's important to remember,
What's that?
these sources are looking at prayer from an Islamic perspective,
Right, there's so many other faiths out there.
with their own unique traditions and practices.
This deep dive is just one way to approach this topic.
But even if you don't belong to a specific religion,
The idea of connecting with something bigger
whether it's nature
or a community.
or a higher power,
It's something we can all relate to.
and this idea that prayer can teach us discipline,
Gratitude.
self-awareness.
It's a powerful message.
So what do you think is the main takeaway from all of this?
I think the sources are saying that Islamic prayer, namaz,
It's more than just a ritual.
it's a holistic
It
experience
can affect us deeply.
in our minds, our bodies, and our spirits,
It's a journey of self-discovery
of connecting with ourselves and our faith.
and the world around us,
It's about becoming the best versions of ourselves.
both spiritually and practically.
This has been such a fascinating deep dive
We've learned so much.
from the basics of Islamic prayer to these really profound concepts.
About its impact on our lives.
Thank you for being our guide on this journey.
It was my pleasure.
And to all our listeners, thank you for sharing these amazing sources with us.
They were really thought-provoking
We hope this exploration has given you some new insights
and maybe even inspired you to learn more
about the power of prayer.
in your own faith or from a broader perspective.
Keep diving, everyone.